Good afternoon. We will now call to order this meeting of the Public Safety Standing Committee. I will begin by reading the Chamber Emergency Evacuation Announcements and Public Speaker Guidelines. Upon activation emergency alarm signal, all persons should immediately exit the building. Please use exits to the left, right, or front of the council chamber or the east or west stairwell outside the rear doors of the chamber. Do not use elevators or escalators. After exiting the building, proceed down 9th Street and into the assembly area located in the former public safety building parking lot. Able persons should assist visually and hearing impaired visitors with exiting the building. Persons wishing to speak during the public comment period or public hearings are generally allowed 3 minutes to speak. Persons appearing before the committee are not allowed to campaign for public office, promote private business ventures, use language of a personal nature which assaults or demeans any person, including comments directed at public officials or staff members that not relate to their official duties or just to question staff members directly. All questions are to be directed to the committee chair. Failure to adhere to the guidelines may result in speakers forfeiting any remaining time, and further disciplinary action is necessary, which could include barring from attendance at future meetings of the committee for a period of 6 months. Madam Chair, this concludes the announcements. We will now move on to the public comment period. Is there anyone here present today that would like to speak about items not on today's agenda? Please approach the podium and state your name for the record.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Lee Williams. I'm the advocacy chair for Sierra Club Falls of the James Group. And after the climate emergency resolution was passed in 2021, we created working groups that included environmental justice groups from all over the city to work for the Urban Forestry Department and greening of the fleet and all kinds of things. Today, I'm speaking on behalf of the Beyond Methane working group and the Electrify RVA working group. In 2023, we began finding gas leaks around the city using our instrumentation, and then we found an easier way using the 911 system and primarily the Pulse Point app on our phones, and we were getting direct alerts in a 24-hour period and then cataloging them. In July 1st of 2024, we began documenting where these leaks were held. We didn't know how large they were. Only the city of Richmond Fire Department response to these calls, which included battalion captains, engines, safety vehicles, and bucket trucks, tower trucks, the larger ones. And then there's another column for other support personnel that arrived. So we were able to, after meeting with the hazmat captain and other folks in Richmond Fire Department, we basically used personnel information that they shared with us of how many firefighters would be riding on these trucks or in the battalion vehicles. So as from January 1st, 2024 to June 30th, 2025, there were 919 911 calls. 3,946 vehicles were deployed by Richmond Fire Department, and the personnel deployed roughly is 12,217 in a one-year period. We are just sharing this information with you all so you are aware of the significant financial burden this places on our Richmond Fire Department. So when budget comes, you will be able to use this information to your benefit. We also included a map, which only, and I'm sharing these with you all when I leave. There's a map that we only have 6 months worth of data points on here from January until the end of June, because if we put a whole year on here, you wouldn't be able to see them. They are all on top of each other. So
30 seconds.
I have copies for all of you right here, and thank you for your attention.
Would you mind please restating your name?
Sure.
For the record.
Lee, L-E-E, Williams. And I can leave 3 copies up here so Councilmember Lynch can have one too.
Thank you. I was going to ask you for a copy. Thank you so much.
There's also information about who we are and what we've been doing in our projects.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions?
Ms. Williams, before you leave, I just had a question. In terms of when you talked about like the budget season, is this really in reference to just like the sheer volume of gas leaks that we're having and its fiscal impact and human impact on our first responders?
Well, not only that, but the environmental impacts are also in the study. I just gave you the 3-minute version today. We could do a whole hour on this, but the environmental, health, and economic impacts to residents and the city's budget.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Is there anyone else here present that would like to speak about items not on today's agenda? Seeing none, the public comment period is now closed. We will now move on to the approval of the minutes. The minutes to be approved are from the June 24th, 2025 Public Safety Standing Committee meeting. If there are no amendments or corrections to those meeting minutes, stand approved as presented. Those minutes have been approved. We will now move on to the board vacancies to be delivered by Ms. Nichols.
Good afternoon, Councilwoman Trammell, Abubakar, Pamela Nichols, Council Management Analyst. The vacancy report before you today highlights current and projected vacancies through November of this year. And so we're going to dive right into the report. And so the first vacancy we have is for the advisory board for the assessment of towing fees and storage of vehicles. And so we have one vacancy for a towing and recovery operator and an application from Tabitha Sheeran. And then moving on down in the report, for the Community Criminal Justice Board, we have one vacancy for a public defender and 3 vacancies for at-large members. We have a reappointment application from Tracy Painter and a reappointment application from David Smith. And then for the Richmond Ambulance Authority, you would notice that there are 5 vacancies and all individuals qualified for reappointment. And we did receive reappointment applications for all 5 vacancies.
Can these vacancies be, these are just citizen vacancies, right? With specific, some of them have specific qualifications, such as a local educator.
Mhm.
But we could take these back to our council districts and encourage people to apply.
Oh, definitely, yes, absolutely. And so the Office of the City Clerk, we provide City Council with a quarterly report of vacancies, and those that have specific criteria are listed out. Most vacancies require an individual to reside or have a principal place of employment in the city. So we definitely, we do that on a quarterly basis, and we can continue to work with your office as well.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Pamela, I have a question, but I will speak to you about this after the meeting.
Okay.
It's in reference to, it's okay, we'll talk about it after the meeting. Okay. Should we forward this to the full body council? Okay. Thank you, Pam. I recommend to forward these recommendations to the full body of council.
Do we have a motion in a second?
Second.
Do we need a public hearing?
The committee is voting to forward the board recommendations as stated, to council as stated. Ms. Abubakar,
Aye.
Chair Trammell.
Aye.
That motion has been approved.
Thank you.
We will now move on to presentations. We have a presentation from Director Willoughby for emergency planning for upcoming hurricane season, as well as the water crisis incident response assessment follow-up.
Good afternoon. Ooh, try to get that a little further away from my mouth. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, other members of the committee, and all the support group that's here. Thank you for inviting us here today. My name is Paul Hunley. I am an emergency planner for the Department of Social Services, working out of the Office of Emergency Management under Coordinator Willoughby. I appreciate you guys inviting us here today to talk about hurricane preparedness. With me is Taylor Fuqua. She is going to join me in a little bit and provide some context to a part of the presentation today. So we should bring up the presentation, I guess.
Excuse me. Who did you say you are? Who now?
My name is Paul Hunley. I
And
work
you?
out of the Office of Emergency Management, ma'am.
You're what?
I work out of the Office of Emergency Management.
You work out of the office.
Yes, ma'am. I'm employed through the Department of Social Services as an emergency planner and embedded in the Office of Emergency Management for that purpose.
I thought Mr. Willoughby was going to present. I'm looking at here. I do not. Maybe I'm missing something. Steve, I need some help on this, Steve. I do not see his name. I'm asking Steve Skinner. I mean Taylor. I do not see that guy's name. I do not know that guy. I thought Mr. Willoughby was going to present today.
Yes, that's the messages we sent asking that Director Willoughby present.
Okay,
I
we're
think he might be able to help clarify.
And I can walk us through this presentation. But I asked the office to present on hurricane preparedness, and then I was going to discuss.
Excuse me. This committee asked for you to be here today to present.
Very good.
So I'm asking you to be here to present, not somebody I do not know.
Very well.
Thank you very well. Thank you. Go ahead.
So, good afternoon, Stephen Willoughby. I'm the Director of Emergency Communications Preparedness and Response for the City of Richmond. The request was discussion of the 2025 hurricane season and the city's readiness brief. And this is not moving ahead. Oh, there we go. Now it is. So this is a synopsis of what the hurricane season for 2025 looks like. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration is predicting 13 to 19 storms for this current hurricane season. They've named those storms. There are 6 to 10 hurricanes with a prediction of 3 to 5 major hurricanes. Now, of course, you got to remember with hurricanes, if a storm is only as if it impacts you. So even though a storm has minimum impact somewhere else, if it impacts us, it becomes a major storm for your community. Here are the names that that NOAA has named for 2025's hurricane season. So far, we've had 3 storms that have impacted the United States. The first one was in 2024. It did not make landfall. Then there was one in June 28th that was down in Mexico. And then, of course, we had some impact from Chantel, which was during the July 4th weekend. So this is the categorization of hurricanes. Category 1 is 74 to 95 mile an hour winds, 96 to 110 for category 2. Because we're inland, means that oftentimes these are reduced to a tropical storm or by the time they hit us, but they still have major impacts to us, even on the inland, principally with flooding as well as winds. So we are beginning to enter the peak of hurricane season. As you see, hurricane season extends from June all the way to the end of October. But right now we're beginning that peak of that hurricane season. So what is the city doing to prepare? So we've established emergency management liaison program. What that is that's representatives from various departments that help staff the Emergency Operations Center. That was codified this year. Mayor Avila introduced administrative reg, I believe it's 1.9, that requires city departments to designate emergency management liaisons and also outlines responsibilities that departments have for the office towards the Office of Emergency Management and the city's emergency management planning efforts. We collaborate with external stakeholders. We work together with key agencies outside of our city departments to make sure that we have emergency response, proper preparedness and response. So examples of those is behavioral health, as well as the ambulance authority are examples of those, as well as VCU, state agencies. We're coordinating with those various agencies. Concept called Web EOC. That is our that is a system of records. So that's how we capture information, share information when the Emergency Operations Center is activated. Also, we're currently reviewing continuity of operations plans, make sure that when a hurricane impacts the city, it impacts the operations of the city. And so reviewing those departments, reviewing those plans, making sure that they are prepared. We're in the process of doing a major reboot of those continuity of operations plans, making them a little bit more stricter and a little bit more detail oriented. But those plans exist today, and agencies are reviewing those. As well as we review our sheltering operations plans, and those sheltering operations, that's when we stand up a shelter in response to a disaster. Example would be if there's a tornado that hits a community and we have damaged homes, we would stand up a shelter in those locations. Now there are pre-designated area locations that we've identified in our sheltering plan that meet sort of those minimum requirements to be sheltering. There are a handful of schools as well as community centers that can serve those sheltering operations. Now we would stand that up based upon where the most impact was, and may have to stand up more than one. How do we prepare our residents? We have our community emergency response team. That's an opportunity that the community has in order for them to personally be prepared, but also to be able to assist their neighbors in the event of a emergency or crisis in that particular neighborhood. We're collaborating with civic associations, providing presentations on hurricane as well as just general emergency preparedness. And we've reached out to all the council members to see if we can present at council district meetings that you have in order to share the message. The Office of Emergency Management also provides hurricane preparedness talks and presentations to really any community or organization that helps in order to help residents stay informed and be ready. Talk about our public communications during emergency events. Paul introduced Taylor Fuqua, who's with the Office of Strategic Communications, but she is detailed to DECPR and is physically works in the Office of Emergency Management. And so we are making sure that during an emergency or prior to an emergency, we're communicating with the media, posting on social messaging, trying to use multi-channels in order to reach everyone to make sure that they are prepared. So here's some examples of some communications that we've done in the past. Richmond Ready is a big piece of that. As you remember, we replaced that in, I believe, February, our mass notification system. And so really getting people to sign up for Richmond Ready. We're working on options of where people can, if they don't have the technical expertise in order to do it on their phone, of where they can fill out a paper form and we will manually enter their information into Richmond Ready on their behalf. So examples of what types of events that would prompt an alert for Richmond Ready: public health alerts, severe weather, unexpected street closures, utility or water service outages, missing persons that are in immediate danger, emergency evacuations, and potentially crime-related active threats. There's some confusion around Richmond Ready versus WIA, or wireless emergency alerts. Richmond Ready is the tool that we use to activate wireless emergency alerts. And there are certain criteria that the federal government provide us in order to, before we would activate a wireless emergency alert. And so that is an option of that. Richmond Ready only goes to those who have subscribed to Richmond Ready and have opted into the specific notifications that they have. Wireless emergency alerts go to every cell phone that's within the geographical area that we predefine on the map when we send out one of those alerts. But again, there are some limitations in what we can use that for that are dictated to us by the feds. That being said, I'd be happy to answer any questions or have the team dive deeper into any specific things you have.
Okay, so when you talked about emergency management liaisons, do they, how many does the code require or in each city department?
So the admin reg requires each department to have at least 3. Some have more than 3, particularly larger departments. The requirements for emergency management liaisons is they can act on behalf of their department head, so that when they're in the emergency operations center, they can allocate resources, they can allocate staff on behalf of their department when they're in the emergency operations center.
Do they receive any additional training, or are they required to have any sort of specialized expertise in order to get this?
We conduct quarterly training, and we're in the process of establishing baseline training for all city employees and then enhanced training based upon roles and responsibilities that individuals have in an emergency.
Are they required to go to that additional training?
They will be required to do that.
They will. They have.
Yes.
They are not currently.
Correct.
Okay. I know that the continuity of operations plan, I don't want to supersede the next presentation, but I know that was a big part of the Haggerty report.
Yeah.
When do you expect to have all of those plans fully updated and operational?
So it's a process, because it's a much more complex process now, because what we found with our existing template that we use is it was very lacking. And that was revealed itself very much with Public Utilities Continuity of Operations Plan when you look back on it as opposed to being able to respond. And so we've made that much more robust. We've evolved to the FEMA standard or the national standard. So that's the template that we use. Each agency will have to go through a business process in which they assess what are our essential functions that we perform for the city and map those out in regards to how do we perform those functions if we lose certain functionalities and features of being able to deliver that service.
Is there a reason why we weren't on the FEMA standard to begin with? Because I work in a small school and we use the FEMA standard.
So previously that we used the VDEM standard.
Okay.
And in our assessment, and you see that in the Haggerty report, our assessment is that simply did not go deep enough into what agencies need for continuity of operations.
So to answer my question, do you have, what is your percentage complete at this point where you've addressed it to the FEMA standard, and when do you anticipate being at full?
So we are just now beginning.
Okay.
My hope is that we will be at least at 60% in the next year, if not closer. Again, it's a very detailed process, and we're going to have to work with agencies. Right now, we're prioritizing agencies based upon sort of the risk that they have on citizen delivery. And we're prioritizing those agencies first to dive into those plans and updating them.
And my understanding from Director Morris is that they've already got that done for DPU. He's already knocked that out. Correct?
We're in the process of working through an emergency response plan for them.
Okay. And then community emergency response team, sort of similar questions to the city response team. How many what is your like goal for number in each district? Where are you right now with that? How do people
I won't
get
have to
trained?
get you those numbers. In the last year, we brought on so previously it was just another line item that the office did. In the last year, we brought on a contractor that works for us part-time that they are working on community emergency response teams. And so we've significantly made that program a little more robust in the last year. I'll have to get you the numbers in regards to the total number that we have that are active. Now, just because you participate in the training, they may participate in the training and we provide them the initial kit and they move on, and that's great. While others are more active in the CERT program and help with public education, as well as participate in regional exercises for those teams. But I'll have to give you the details in regards to the number of folks that we have and or what districts those are in. We host a training. Our goal is to host those at least twice a year.
Right. I mean, I think it would be helpful for every council member to know who those people are in their district that are a part of this team. And then I think if we're, as a city, allocating budgetary resources to a contractor to do that, I think having metrics about like what these people are supposed to be doing, what sort of training they're getting, what their expectations are would be a reasonable thing. And then my last question.
And I'll clarify that we initially did that as a contractor because we got grant funding to do that. That grant funding went away. And so, and I'm of a mindset of my personal mindset is we don't hire full-time employees on grant funding, but that grant funding's went away and that's something we can explore this year.
Okay. I mean, but that still has to be propped up because you started
Yes,
something,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay.
And that person's still there and we're paying them out of the general fund now.
Okay. And then the Richmond Ready alerts. Again, I know that was a big piece of the Haggerty report and was launched in late February of this year. How many people at this point are subscribed to Richmond Ready alerts?
Last number I saw was about 7,500 folks are subscribed. It's closer to 8,000 now.
Okay.
And we've just done another big marketing push of that. For instance, I saw it in the Richmond Times-Dispatch, a push there, and I was told the other day that we've now got it up on a billboard on 95 now, that one of those electronic billboards as well. And so we're doing another push, and the commitment I've made to the mayor is we'll be increasing those numbers each quarter, and so we're making a concerted effort to get those numbers, continue to push the program so that we can get as many Richmonders signed up for that program as we can.
What do you think the barriers to access are at this point for, I mean, because it's a very small
Yes.
window, I understand, but I mean, I would think that after January, most people would feel an incentive to sign up for that. So what are you seeing or hearing that the barriers to entry are for like subscribing to that program?
Right. A big piece of it is knowing it's there. The second piece I think of it is we all get alert services of understanding that this is sort of an important one. For example, in May, when we had our second water issue, our subscriber count jumped up considerably. I think it went from like 4,000 to 7,000 during that incident. And as I talked to Councilwoman Trammell about, is there's simply some individuals that are not tech savvy, and how do you upload the app and how do you go into the computers and what have you. And so we're recognizing those things and creating mechanisms where people can fill out a form and we will manually enter them into the system.
And then the wireless emergency alerts, that there are stricter constraints around that from the federal government. What are some of those constraints? Are those like major hurricanes?
Yes.
Okay.
And there has to be, the best way I can describe it is there's an imminent threat to the public.
I had thought in January that we were going to be able to sort of geofence people with Richmond Ready. I thought that was the whole sort of reason why we were moving to Richmond Ready.
Yes, and we can.
So why wouldn't we just do that as opposed to making citizens have to sign up for something?
Because if we're in a situation in which it is a scenario in which we can use WIA, if you signed up for Richmond Ready, it doesn't matter. We will geofence an area, and that area very well may be the entire city limits, but we will geofence an area and push that WIA message to that. But we also have that capability with Richmond Ready as well.
But we're just not using it.
Yep, we're using it.
So okay. So we are geofencing for Richmond Ready, or
We do when it's required.
when it's it rises to the
Yes.
WIA level, but aren't you just using WIA for that as opposed to Richmond Ready?
We have the capability of doing it for both, and I
Okay.
believe we've done that for both. Oh, well, let me back up. We have not done that for WIA, but we have the capability of doing that for WIA. For the May event for Richmond Ready, for the boil water advisory, we did geofence the area in which was impacted by that boil water advisory to push that message out.
So even if I didn't subscribe and I was in Councilmember Gibson's district, I would have gotten a notification saying you're under a boil advisory, even if I hadn't subscribed for Richmond Ready.
No, in that case, we only pushed it out to Richmond Ready. I was on medical leave that week. We should have pushed it to WIA, and since then I have issued a directive that boil water advisories go out via WIA
Okay.
from this point forward. Well, from end of May forward.
And the feds, that's an authorized use of it by the
Yes.
feds?
Yes. Yes, it is. We found an avenue to make that an authorized use.
Subject to interpretation.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Sarah, because you asked some of the questions I was going to ask. Stephen, how many people did you say are in well, here it says Community Emergency Response Team. I thought it was called Citizens Emergency Response Team. How many people did you say?
I don't have that number. I will make sure I provide that to you.
Can you give us a breakdown on each district? Because,
I will try to do that.
I'm sorry,
I will try to get you based upon district. Some of it, the information may be dated of the address that they were at when they received the certification. But
Well,
yes, we will try to provide that
and
to
you said that they do have training.
Yes.
Where? When was the last
It's
training?
2 days of training. Typically, we're hosting at the Richmond Ambulance Authority headquarters.
Where? At the Richmond?
Yeah, at RAA's headquarters is where most of the trainings have occurred. It's a 2-day training, initial training, but then we work with the region, and there are regional trainings and exercises that happen throughout the year.
Well, I didn't know about that. That's for sure. Okay, you also said, I think it's June the 1st through November the 30th is hurricane season. I think you might have had that wrong.
I probably did.
You probably did. You did. I just know that in the past few weeks with all the rain and things like that's been coming down, and I mean horrible storms, just people be
Yes.
driving, then all of a sudden it's like a downpour. And I know that my colleagues have been sharing photos on Facebook where just the sun was out there, then all of a sudden with people's cars were flooded. Like on
Yes.
Sims Avenue, my neighborhood, Richmond Highway. And when did you come to the city? What year did you come to the city?
When did I start?
When did you
with the
get
city?
hired? That's what I meant. When
Yeah,
did you get hired?
December of 2014.
When?
December of 2014.
Okay, so I guess you were not here when we had that horrible hurricane where.
No, ma'am.
So you've not been through any hurricanes or any bad storms since you've been here? Like there was one, I think, was there one named Sandy?
Yeah, we've had some substantial storms. We've had some snowstorms.
But I mean, But I mean, where people had to leave their homes that I witnessed, where I didn't have power for over a week, where there was people that lost their homes and all of that. I do believe that there was a citizen that lost his life too. So you don't.
So correct.
So
Since
when
I've
I,
been
so
in
when I call you and I get upset because you're not responding back to me, it's because my people are hollering at me, trying to find answers. Where do we go? What do we do when our yards are flooding? Because I know some of my district is in a flood zone. They've been having meetings. Like I just found out this morning, a part of Dearborn on Glennon Drive, the citizen called me and told me that she has found out she's in a flood zone. I've had people call me on Columbia Street, Lynn Haven, all in that area, that they're in a flood zone. What do? They don't know anything about this emergency number where somebody's going to call them, contact them. They don't have these sophisticated cell phones. Some of them still have the little flip phone. Some of them don't even have their landline. So how are you reaching out? As I can say, maybe over 27,000 citizens just in my district, and I'm quite sure she has more in the fourth district because the population is growing. So how do you react to because I don't give them your number, because if you're not calling me back, I know you're not going to call them back. But anyway, how do you get your message out to the ones who feel like that they are being left out?
As I mentioned earlier, we're trying to push that message out, billboards, civic associations, district meetings. I believe I'm at your district meeting next week, of where we're pushing that out as much as we can and trying to do it in various different mediums that different people consume.
Well, you know what? You say as much as you can. So you're pushing it out as much as you can. I think you need to give us 100%, especially when citizens are upset. And then when they see what happened in Texas, they see what happened in other parts of other countries where they lost their homes, lost their lives, children, and all of that. So you need to give 100% of your time to us and to the citizens that fear when the rains are starting to pour down and they remember what happened back in the day, as you said, that you were not here until 2014. But I know Reverend Dwight Jones, who was our mayor, would remember very well. And also my colleagues that was on council with me were out there trying to save them and feed them. No power for over a week on Richmond Highway, Jefferson Davis back then, cooking food, giving it to the children and to the seniors. As I said, you were not here. So all I want you to do is make sure that you can get the message out when you come to our meeting. I think it's August 14th. If you have those.
I think it's, yeah, I think
And
it is
that you
important.
can let them know how they can sign up, even if you got to bring somebody there, because I have a lot of seniors there at our meetings and they do not understand and they do not have the information to get the information to be notified when there is an emergency.
Yes, ma'am. And we plan on bringing paper forms that people can fill out and we will manually enter them in. It's as long as they have a cell phone, it will push the information to them.
So you're going to go into the next presentation?
Yes, ma'am. So a couple of weeks ago, Haggerty was here. They presented their findings from a really intensive 4 or 5 month investigation is really what it was. And based upon interviews that they performed, surveys that were conducted, they had many observations and did recommendations or assessments, and then which led to recommendations associated with those. Those recommendations are broken down in the report and categorized by those FEMA core categories. And from what I understand, the ask is today, and we can pivot, is to walk through those core capabilities and the deficiencies that Haggerty identified, and at a high level explain what we will be doing in order to implement those recommendations. First off, I want to be clear that We have accepted all of Haggerty's recommendations, and we plan on implementing them all. There are timelines in Haggerty's report that we aim to achieve in those timelines. We plan to put on the website, here are the recommendations, and provide updates quarterly on where we're at and how we are progressing with those. And as I mentioned, organizational development, we are willing to come back on a regular interim period and present where we are at. What I'll explain today is sort of some of the things that we've already put in place, but some of the plans and such that will be going forward of what we will be doing. And I'm struggling with this one more time. So the first core capability that Haggerty talked about was planning. And I'm gonna be very blunt with you in regards to many of our plans were non-existent, or many of our plans had deficiencies. Many were operational drafts, if we want to call them that. We're going to fix that. The direction I've had from the mayor is find it, fix it. Engaging Haggerty was one of the first steps in doing that, is do a comprehensive review of the city's response and fix those problems that were identified in there. So there are specifically 6 plans that were recommended and that we will be implementing over about the next 2 years. As I said, those timelines are in there. First one is an integrated preparedness plan. So that's an overarching plan identifying the gaps that we have in preparedness, identify gaps that we have in training, and really vet out, create a preparedness plan for the city of Richmond. We hope to get that implemented in the next 30 to 45 days, or begin that process in the next 30 to 45 days. The second one is the city's emergency operations plan. We have an emergency operations plan that was adopted by City Council, I believe it's in 2022. There's some instances in which we did not follow that emergency operations plan, and those items are going to be addressed via policy. But there are some gaps that were identified in the Haggerty report, I'll refer to as that just simply need to be addressed in our emergency operations plan. So we hope, I want to guess probably late summer, early spring, is we're going to open that emergency operations plan up. It's a little earlier than what we needed to do, but I think it was important for us to open that up and begin working through that process to address. Now, it's a comprehensive document, and so it'll take us a minute to update that, probably 18-month process. But we hope to have, well, we don't hope to, we will have a much improved emergency operations plan that is executable at the end of that. In the meantime, we're amending the existing emergency operations plan, addressing those high priority areas that were identified by Haggerty, to amend elements of the existing emergency operations plan to address those, as well as implementing policies. One of those I mentioned, the administrative reg, implementing policies to address those high-end recommendations as well. Some of the other plans that need to be addressed is a resource management plan, appointed distribution plan, a crisis communications plan, as well as a volunteer and donations plan. Those are all plans over the next couple of years that we will be developing, and looking forward to input and support from city departments as well as our elected officials as we approach those, so that we're doing a whole community approach to those. As I alluded to earlier, operational coordination there were elements of that in which we can deeply improve on. We are improving upon policies associated with the Emergency Operations Center. I mentioned the emergency management liaisons, better educating them, better familiarizing themselves with their role in the Emergency Operations Center. Many of these elements are going to require commitments from leadership at the city department level, at the CAO level, at the mayor level, and to some degree at the city council level as well. A challenge that was presented to us in activating the EOC is the city of Richmond, the size that we are. We do not have a permanent emergency operations center. It is in the basement of the library that requires about an hour and a half at best, if not 2 hours, to pull equipment out of the closet in the back and set that room up. The city of this size, a capital city, has been recommended more than once, needs a permanent emergency operations center where we can go in, turn on the lights, and begin immediately responding to whatever emergency faces the city. Operational communications. So one of the updates that we're making to the existing emergency operations plan is creating a cadence or a battle rhythm, if you want to call it that, of when reports are going to happen at the policy group level, at the EOC level, at the elected official level, and communications flow of those informations. So that when we go into the Emergency Operations Center, we already have a template in which the rhythm of information flow is going to be established. Our crisis communications plan that will be developed over the next months will help also correct some of that, as well as our EMLs and better flow of information within the EOC. So situational awareness, I mentioned we're creating a template cadence or battle rhythm for the EOC. That was an important gap that was outlined, some inconsistencies with when meetings were occurring, let alone information that's being shared at those. And so we're addressing that in our update to what we call Annex C, or the response element of the emergency operations plan. Creating information flows and making sure that the right people are in the EOC, making sure that those folks are decision makers, but also in those key departments that need to liaison back to their home department and making sure that they're in it. We didn't see that in some of the early days, but after we got to day 2, day 3, there was more of a rhythm and an expectation, and we're going to resolve that from when next time we execute the Emergency Operations Center, that we have all the right people in the right seats at the right time. Public information and warning. We've talked a little earlier about Richmond Ready. That was a big piece to that. At the time of January, we were still on an old, antiquated system. It was called Code Red, if you remember that. It failed us. We were not able to send a WIA message out. We talked about WIA. It simply would not let us do it. We eventually got to a point where we were able to send to the few subscribers there were for Code Red, a Code Red message out. But again, that was a limited number, and so that failed us. As I mentioned, the Organizational Development Committee that was just simply poor timing, because we'd already planned on replacing that out, and that was planned to go on. Richmond Ready, or what is now Richmond Ready, was supposed to go online February 1st. That wasn't very helpful for us in the first part of January, and so we expedited the implementation of the Everbridge product, which is sort of the backbone of Richmond Ready, to get that on board. And we're still learning from Richmond Ready, and we hope to continue to make that more robust with more information, more opt-ins for the public. Annex C also addresses some of these things, such as improved coordination with some of the departments, such as 311. And we need we need to dialogue and discuss and understand the expectations from council and what we can deliver in regards to communications to our elected officials with city council, of what that cadence looks like and what format that looks like. There were various methods used throughout that January water event. Some were more effective than others. Different council members like to be communicated in different manners than others, of finding that format that is conducive to the operation of the EOC, making sure that we're providing our elected officials with current as well as accurate information, because that was a challenge as well of information being shared with council persons it was dated information or not the most current current information and making sure that we're providing at the time the most current information to our council members and doing that in a timely manner. Logistics and supply chain management. So this was a significant challenge and continues to be a challenge for our Emergency Operations Center. In fact, Paul and I were just talking about that before lunch in a meeting that we had in regards to how we fix some of our logistics issues with our Emergency Operations Center. And what logistics is sort of managing the stuff that is needed, not only for the EOC, but in the case of January, getting water to the right place and getting it there at the right time. We're going to have to simply reinforce using our WebEOC product, that software, more diligently. Let me be honest, not many. Most requests were not entered into WebEOC, and they were more verbal handoffs. And so that led to lots of supply chain issues that simply need to be resolved as we go forward. Economic recovery, as you see in Haggerty's reports a couple of weeks ago, they said that we've implemented these. Part of how we were able to do that is we redid or redone our recovery plan. What a recovery plan is after boom happens, is how does the city recover from that? And so we've done a new recovery plan, and we sort of were building it real time as we were actually recovering from the January event. And so that is a much more robust plan. That plan identifies or has us identifying what we call a recovery officer early in the incident, so that we have somebody in the EOC that is focusing on how does the city recover while it's still responding to the event. And so that recovery plan will be adopted in the updated EOP. At the same time, we do that Annex C, which I'm looking for next week for that to be published. Long-term vulnerability. So this is an important piece that we need to make sure that we're incorporating into all of our planning processes, but in particular our point of distribution process, which in the January event was pushing water out to community sites, pushing it out to vulnerable populations, how we are doing that. Haggerty noted that we overcome some of those challenges, not all of those challenges by any stretch of the imagination, but making sure that we always have a current list of those vulnerable populations and that we're addressing those in not our planning operations, but also in our response operations. That will also be I mentioned that. They'll also be included in our point of distribution plan. And we'll be working closely with our human services portfolio in order to make sure that we have current information that's available to EOC as we make decisions there. So here's the progress report that Haggerty gave us, and I think I've touched on all of these. Implement and test the city's new emergency notification system. That's Richmond ready. Develop a citywide recovery framework that leads to those roles. That's a recovery plan that will be incorporated into the city's EOP probably next week. Development of citywide cost recovery plan. What we learned, even though for various different reasons we were not eligible for either FEMA or state reimbursement for this emergency, it taught us a lot of lessons in regards to gaps that we have in how we capture information associated with the event itself in order to collect the information and present it to both the state as well as the feds for reimbursement. So there's a cost recovery plan that's supposed to be finished probably in August at this stage in the game. Up to the continuity plans across the city. We talked a little bit about that in the earlier presentations. It is a comprehensive relook at how we do continuity of operations plans. Our department's continuity of operations plans are going from a 6-8 page document to in some cases, 40, 50 pages of document in regards to making sure that we're comprehensive of identifying those critical functions that they have and how are they going to recover if they lose that critical function. Update the emergency operations plan. I think I hit on that many, many times. And as I said, the integration preparedness plan, that's one of the first steps. And that effort will begin in the next 30 to 45 days. Happy to answer any questions you have.
I just wanted to go back to, well, there's some comments I have. In terms of, looking back at communication with council members, I mean, I understand, and I think sometimes there's a little bit of scapegoating with council that we are 9 different people and we have 9 different preferences. That may be true, but in this situation, there was just no communication. So I think any communication would have been appreciated. So I want to kind of clear that for the record.
Understood.
Also, a lot of this we're talking about. One, I mean, I think your budget has gone from 13 million in FY22 to around like 22 this year. I mean, there's a lot of this, you refer back to sort of building software or getting technology. Technology is only as good as the people and the processes that surround it. And a lot of what I read through Haggerty is like some of the tools are already there, but like if you're not using them, if there's not the structures in place, then it doesn't matter how much money you're spending on these fancy tools. And I think the same thing goes for adoptability around Richmond Ready alerts. So like if Richmond Ready could be the best thing in the world, and it's honestly not, but like it is better than what we had before. But if people aren't using it, then it doesn't matter, right? It just falls on deaf ears. So I think I would implore you to task yourself and your team at building a culture where we are actually like stop going for bright, shiny objects and expensive things and start actually doing the hard work. Like it is amazing to me that you had continuity plans that are only 6 pages long for city agencies. And I mean, you've been here for 10 years. So like that is concerning. I think that what I would request is that as you are moving through this process and building out these recovery plans and these continuity plans, that one, they're being tested and that we're getting feedback about what testing you're doing to make sure that like these plans just aren't sitting on shelves, and then giving us feedback on your progress as to when you're going to be at 100% for all of these. Because I think that this is too crucial. And we can't continue to wait for a crisis to happen and then spend almost $500,000 on an external consultant to tell us that we're just not like managing things right. Like you have the right amount of people, you have one of the biggest budgets in the city, and we're clearly failing on a lot of fronts with this. So like we have to be more proactive and holding you and your team and ourselves accountable to making this better for the people of Richmond.
I completely agree. One of the things I will share is I've only been in the emergency management space here in the city since 2024, and that's when the Office of Emergency Management moved to DECPR. So that's some of those changes. However, the organization that I inherited had 2 employees and had an operating budget of $114,000, and simply were not able to do what they were needed to do. And my hope is that we would have made the investments earlier and got things in place prior to January that were in place. But there was, let me say, previously, this emergency preparedness was important, but it was not always a priority. I think this administration has made it clear, and I had a conversation with the mayor. We had our one-on-one his first day physically in the office, and I shared those concerns, and he shared his commitment for a prepared community. Little did we know that Monday we would be all in the Emergency Operations Center. But that has went from 2 people to $114,000 budget to we've increased that by 204%. And we now have 5 people that are in that office in this current fiscal year. And as you see in the report, there's a need for other elements in there. Part of the reason why we have to rely so much on consultants is that office is simply not staffed to where it needs to be. We did some looking around in regards to other capital cities similar size, and that office should be 7 to 10 people. And we're just now getting to where it's 5. And so without those human resources in place, we have to rely upon contractors to do some of the planning work that really I would like for our office to be doing in-house.
So will Haggerty have any sort of evaluation of the plans once they're in place? Or is their engagement with the city done?
In regards to the incident response assessment, their engagement's done. I mean, we can ask them back, but it'll cost more money, I'm sure. We can ask them back to relook at what we've implemented in a year or 2 from now, if that's the desire of council. I would welcome that.
No, I'm not saying I want to spend another penny on it.
I love third parties looking. I love third parties looking at my work. I mean, I'm the one that engaged Haggerty early on because I saw in the EOC the first day that we were not responding as a city like we should have.
And I imagine there's a consortium of you all that can do some peer review that doesn't cost $500,000.
I'm afraid that would not have been as blatant and honest as what this is.
Not for an after action report. No. I'm
Okay.
not speaking to that. I'm speaking
Yeah.
to continuity planning and yeah.
I agree. I completely
I think
agree.
there's things we can do creatively to not spend more.
I agree.
How many employees did you say you have?
In the Office of Emergency Management, in this fiscal year, there are 5.
5 minus 1? Minus
Currently,
one
we have 2 vacants. Our continuity of operations planner starts, so the in-house person starts on Monday. We have a deputy director position that's vacant due to retirement, and the COOP planner was due to retirement. And then we have a new position for a preparedness manager that was in this year's budget.
Not a good answer. But anyway, why is the EOC at the library? Why do y'all have that at the library?
That's what the EOP dictated. I don't know the history behind why it's at the library.
It used to be wasn't it at RAA?
Yeah, that's what I understand, and that's still and the EOP is still our backup EOC. And fortunately or unfortunately, we frequently have to use our backup EOC because the library is in the core of downtown. And so many of the events that the EOC is activated for are happening downtown. And so we don't want our EOC in the middle of the event. And so we've opted, the latest example was the election, is because the library was an election polling place. We opted to have our EOC at the Richmond Ambulance Authority, just simply to separate that out in the event that it needed to be. It was staffed and fully executed, but in the event that it really needed to be ramped up.
And how many agencies are usually there when you have these meetings?
Which meetings?
Like y'all just had with the water crisis and all of you met over there. Is it the police, fire, council members, the mayor, the CAO, public utilities, public works? I'm
Yes.
asking you, do you know?
Well, it depends on, so different
there?
activations require different levels. For the water event in January, it was all hands on deck. Everybody was there. Everybody was there. Many of our events, let's use the example of a snow event. We don't necessarily call in Office of Community Wealth Building in order to staff the EOC. It's more focused on public safety as well as public works to respond to that type of an emergency. However, if it ramps up to a bigger incident where we're doing shelters and things along those lines, we can always ramp up the EOC.
So who makes that call? Who's supposed to be there and who's not supposed to be there? Especially when we were in a crisis like the water situation in January.
That decision is generally made by myself, the CAO, and the
By
mayor.
you. By you. So you basically pick and choose who's supposed to be there at that meeting.
Yes,
You.
I'm included, yes, in that discussion. The recommendation of what we do is it a full activation, meaning everybody's there, or do we do a little more limited scope? Simply because we don't want individuals there that don't have anything.
Well, I'm glad you just took that responsibility because I think you failed us. You failed us council members and the citizens in Richmond. And I told you that before, especially when we did not even know, and some of us were not notified until like 4 o'clock in the afternoon of that day when we had no water. So I guess that you take that responsibility because, like I just said, you failed us 9 council members and the new mayor and the citizens in Richmond.
Okay,
And I'm not happy about it because I'm still hearing about it, about how, and thank God for our police chief and our officers who helped us council members with little bottles of water that they were given, or little boxes of water, because we didn't have what Henrico County had. And that falls on you because you should have been on top of it. And like I said, we are still in a hurricane season, so let's not forget about that until what, November what did I say, the 30th? So you had it wrong when you said October and you admitted that you had it wrong. I'd like for you to come back in September to give us another update because I'm going to have some more questions for you. And I want you to be here to present it, not the other person. And I appreciate you taking your time to come here to admit that you failed us. Thank you. Is there anything else on the agenda? Steve?
Yes, we will
Yeah.
now have I'm sorry. Okay, we will now have a Shako Bottom update from Chief of Police Rick Edwards.
Chief, did you want to wait? Because I know we have to be out of here because there's another meeting and we don't want you to rush through this because I know I have many questions. So if you could, we're not having a meeting in August. So if you could please come back in September, we would appreciate that very much. Is that good, Sarah? Okay. Steve, did you have anything? Record or anything?
No, nothing additional.
All right, thank you. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you, Nadia. Thank you, Luke. Thank you. Thank you, Sarah.